Welcome to the Father Jim Clark Show, here on Heavens Road FM. Keep tuning in and keep the faith.
Well, welcome back to the show today, and I'd like to talk about something that I've talked about in a previous radio show that I've done, and that is going on pilgrimage. I think it's worth going back to have a chat about pilgrimage, and I have actually got in the studio with me today a special guest, and I'll introduce him in just a couple of minutes, because what prompted me to do this particular show is that I've just come back from the Salford Diocesan Lourdes pilgrimage, and it's an amazing thing. There were just over 700 of us went, and if you've never been on pilgrimage before and would like to dip your toe in the ocean of what pilgrimages are, then the diocesan trip is a real cracker to start with. And that's because I've seen for so long, our young people, they get a really bad press. But out of the 700 of us that went, we had groups of all kinds of different. We had lots of sick people who needed pushing around in wheelchairs. We had a children and family group. I think there were about 50 children went. There was a deaf group. There were 16 of those came with us. And then there was this army of blue shirts. Now, the blue shirts are the young people all wearing the same colour shirts, blue, of course. And they are the people who, if you need anything, you go heading for a blue shirt. They are the volunteers. They are the people who push the wheelchairs round. If it's too hot, they make sure there are umbrellas to keep you in the shade. They take you back to your hotels. They make sure there's enough water for people to drink. And these young people do an astonishing role. They do a brilliant job. Now, myself, I have been running pilgrimages for more years than I'd like to admit. I first went to Lourdes when I was 12 years old, and the pilgrimage I've just come back off was number 33. So that's quite a few times I've been to Lourdes. But from the very beginning, from when I was ordained, I've been running pilgrimages virtually every year with a colleague of mine, Father Peter Maloney. And one of the people that we actually used to go with is a man called Adrian Duffy, who was working for a very long time in the pilgrimage industry, but has now set up his own company. So, Adrian Duffy, welcome.
Thanks for having me in, Father Jim.
That's all right. You're very welcome. So, just tell us a little bit about your brand newly formed company.
Well, just to give you some background information with regards to myself, I first went to Lourdes back in 1987. It's a funny story, really, because I come home from school, and when we arrived home, my mum said, we booked a holiday, we're going to Europe. So, jumping around the house initially, and then we got hit with, we're off to Lourdes. So it was a bit of a disappointment at first.
Good Catholic family, you say.
Yeah, good Catholic family. It was a bit of a disappointment, because it wasn't something that I'd ever thought I would do. But anyway, we went off and joined the coach. 24 hours later, we were down in Lourdes, and the upshot of it was I had a wonderful time whilst I was there, and it was something then that I wanted to get involved with. So when I left school back in 1989, there was a company that was quite local to us, and luckily for me, they offered me a job, and I was involved with pilgrimages since then. So I took the bullet 2 years ago. I decided I was going to set up my own business. So I set up Northern Star Travel last November, and slowly but surely just started working into organising the pilgrimages myself.
Right. So, now, pilgrimage. Let's talk about pilgrimages, because they are... I think most people would just think of pilgrimages as Lourdes, but actually there's an awful lot. So tell us about the kind of pilgrimages and the destinations that you as a company are offering.
Well, it varies. Like you say, Lourdes is the initial one that people think or associate pilgrimages with, but as time's gone on, people have varied where they want to go. So you have the regular pilgrimages over to Knock, Fatima, Rome, and now more and more people tend to be going out to the Holy Land. It's you see bad publicity on the news as though it's a very dangerous place to go,
yeah.
But once you get out there, you'll find it's nothing like what you actually see on the news. There is obviously a bit of trouble out there, but it's not something that you actually see with regards to pilgrimages. So the pilgrimage destination has changed dramatically in the last few years.
Yeah. I've just been counting up on my fingers, you might have seen me there. You've been in this then for 27 years.
That's right, yes.
That is amazing.
A long time.
Because you still look a young pup, really.
I wish I felt it.
So, Adrian, obviously, you are a man of great experience, having 27 years under your belt, and I'm sure you could tell us lots of great stories about the things that have happened. I bet you could even write a book. People are always saying to me, you should write these stories down. But it's good to know that, for our listeners out there, I actually travelled, as I said, with Father Peter Maloney, or we did maybe 18 years, I think, with you.
I think it was, yes.
And it's always been very handy to us. When we are putting these trips together, obviously, we want the best value for our pilgrims. And every year, for those 18 years that we went with Adrian and his previous employer, we obviously looked around, and each time we came back to Adrian because, Adrian is a very dedicated man. He's always been able to give us, kind of what we want. And I shouldn't really be saying this, but we'd look at the brochure and then we'd bend a little bit. He'd offer one hotel and we'd say, well, can we have this one? And he was always very, very good to us. And so it's been great for us to have somebody like yourself, Adrian, who knows the business inside out. But I want to come on to your Northern Star travel now. So where are you based, first of all?
Just based in Bury, which is around about 8 miles outside of Manchester city centre.
Right. And I presume that most of what you do is either via the web or over the telephone.
Yeah, on the pilgrimages, it's funny really, because there's quite a number of companies in the UK that specialise in this field, but I'm the first one now, as far as I'm aware, that's actually based in the UK that has an online booking system able to book pilgrimages, and trying to change people's views on how they book pilgrimages online has been quite difficult at first, because I think the market is still a bit sceptical about using the internet, even though it's been around for a long time. But slowly but surely,
I think people are a bit afraid of technology, really.
Yeah, I think it is. But when you look at it, you talk to people about pilgrimages and say you can actually book online with Northern Star Travel, and they'll say, well, we'd still like to send a booking form in through the post. But then when you talk to them about the normal holidays, they'll say, oh yeah, we've just booked online, for example, with Ryanair or EasyJet. And you say, well, you can do that as a pilgrimage as well.
What's the difference?
No difference whatsoever. So, but I think people are pretty much old school, and they still like to either call into the office and see who they're actually dealing with, or just get a brochure through the post and fill a booking form and send that back with a cheque.
I think one of the things that maybe when people realise that it's you who is fronting his own business now with Northern Star, we have that in the back of our own minds. We have been fairly loyal, to the people that we've travelled with over the years. And I do think that, when you've been travelling with somebody like yourself for so long, you do get, I was going to say comfortable. That's not the right word. Although you are comfortable. We were always very comfortable dealing with you. But you do know that if there's going to be an issue, if there's going to be a problem, Adrian is always there at the other end of a phone. And I hope anyway that as you take off in your new venture, that people will become regulars. Do you find that already from people that you know in the past? You
do. What you find with people is once you start dealing with somebody, not just from the customer's point of view, but from the company point of view as well, you get to know what the actual group leader wants for their particular group. And 99% of the time, or I'll even say 100% of the time, what the group leader wants is the best for their group, which, people don't see group organised. They put a lot of time and effort behind the scenes to ensure that the people that they're bringing with them, whether it be from the local parish or wherever it may well be, that they want ultimately the pilgrimage to go right. And then once you've built up the working relationship, initially the first year is the most difficult one, because you don't know the group and the group don't actually know you. But then after you've got the 12 months out of the way and the pilgrimage has been and gone, you tend to develop an understanding between the two parties involved, and then you can work on and move on. And I think pilgrimage groups as well, they're very, very loyal to the companies that they actually travel with. I think once they've had a good service and they know that they're getting good value for money and getting what they actually pay for, they will come back to a company time and time again.
Do you find that there are various people or various groups that go on pilgrimage every year?
Yeah, you'll find there's a market where people will go to the same destination. I'll use Lourdes again because it's a place that people automatically think of a pilgrimage, and you'll get the groups that will go year after year after year after year to Lourdes. But then you've got other groups who, like I said earlier, that pilgrimage destinations they're varied now. So some groups will say, well, we'll go to Lourdes one year, we may go to Rome the following year. For example, next year in 2017, Fatima celebrates the centenary since the apparitions took place, and there's a number of groups already wishing to go to Fatima, and some that have actually inquired with ourselves that I've known from the past have never been to Fatima before, which was quite a shock to me, because you do think that after Lourdes people will actually go to Fatima as well, and there's a number of people that are expressing a wish next year to go, and they've never been before.
Well, that actually reminds me, for our listeners, I mean, Adrian knows my background very well, but for our listeners out there, just to let you know that in those early days when we used to go to Lourdes, we went by coach, and we did that really because we wanted the people who came to Lourdes with us to experience or have the Nevers experience. It kind of tops off or crowns the pilgrimage, the fact that you're able to go back to Nevers. And for those people out there that don't know where Nevers is, it's it's about an 11-hour trip by coach.
That's right.
And it's fairly close to Paris. And that's where, when Bernadette Soubirous left Lourdes, she spent the remaining time of her life at Nevers, and her incorrupt body can be seen there. It's laid out in a big glass case in the chapel of the convent there. But I'd known one lady in particular, I hope she won't be listening because she will know who she is, who had been to Lourdes every year without fail since 1971, but had never been to Nevers. And it just seemed really odd that she'd been all that time, every year without fail, and had never seen Bernadette's body. So that first year she came with us, and she still talks about it today. It's amazing. Of all those years, why did I never go? Mm-hmm. And I think, people do maybe think that going by coach is arduous. Yeah, it is. But Our Lady said, come in pilgrimage. And for us, that's the pilgrimage bit. That's because I don't think pilgrimage is supposed to be easy,
No, I don't think it. And one thing you've hit on there about the coach pilgrimage, the question that people ask me quite a lot, do you prefer travelling by coach or by air? Me, myself, I'm not the best person to be going by air because it's not something that I particularly like, but I will do. But the difference that you'll find between the two pilgrimages that I've found over the years is people who go by coach, yes, it's a long journey sometimes. If you're going straight through, it's 24 hours on the coach, or if you have an overnight stop, it's 2 full days travelling. Yeah. But you'll find that there's a big difference between the two. The people who tend to travel by coach, by the time they've got in Lourdes, for example, they've become one big family, even though they may never have met each other until the day of departure, because it gives that time together which enables you to bond. And groups nowadays, that they seem to have found ways of entertaining themselves on board coaches, whether it be watching a DVD, like yourself, from the time of travel, you've had quizzes, bingos, even in groups, once ice has been broken, you'll find that they'll sing hymns or say a rosary along the way, and it's great. It's great team spirit, really. Yeah,
I mean, it is something that we found very much so, and it's this camaraderie that happens on a coach is unique. For instance, we have 2 ladies who are best friends. We thought they'd been best friends forever, and they actually met on one of our trips. We didn't know that, because they've become such great friends, and they kind of go on holidays other than pilgrimage together, and they're always together now, and it's great to see that. And yeah, okay, going by coach is a bit arduous. There are some people who won't fly, and so coach is a great option for anybody like that, because there are 2 types of coaches that go, I think. One that does a run around all the country and picks 3 up here and 4 up there and 2 up there, or there is another type of trip that goes out like ours, which is a group of people that all know each other, maybe from one parish or a couple of parishes, that might have a couple of seats on their coach that they would be willing to share. And though I think that's a great